watching Titanic's final moments on the History Channel. Day 3 of the History Channel expedition to Titanic, dive number 1. John, David, and Anatoly in Mir 1 are 800 meters south of the bow, approaching the stern. If Titanic's bow section is relatively intact, the stern is almost unrecognizable, a scene of utter devastation. Only a few features are still intact. At the edge of the break, clearly visible, the double bottom. Still bolted to the tank top, a massive engine, as tall as a 5-story building. The huge propellers. On the blade of one, number 401, the yard number assigned to Titanic by her builder, Harland and Wolff. The uppermost deck of the stern, called the poop deck, is peeled back like a tin can. Alongside it, shredded remnants of the top edge of Titanic's side. Portholes and railing still visible. Completely gone is the docking bridge, where an officer would have stood to guide Titanic's stern in toward the pier as she arrived in New York. That arrival, scheduled for April 17th, 1912, is intended to be the final success in the long career of Titanic's captain, Edward J. Smith, who's due to retire after this trip. Smith is a 25-year veteran of White Star. Interviewed in 1907, he expresses sublime confidence in the new vessels he is now commanding and those building them.
I cannot imagine any condition which would cause a ship to founder. I cannot conceive of any vital disaster happening to this vessel. Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that.
There had never been, certainly in Smith's lifetime, a serious incident involving a large passenger vessel resulting in serious loss of life. So I think he was lulled into a false sense of security.
2,200 people are on board, a crew of 900 and 1,300 passengers. Wallace Hartley is a violinist who leads the ship's band. But to avoid paying musicians union scale, White Star lists them as second-class passengers. In third class, or steerage, 710 passengers, many of them immigrants. 29-year-old Alma Paulson from Sweden is moving to Chicago. Her husband's gone ahead to find work. Traveling alone with 4 kids, she's got her hands full. The Dean family, Mr. and Mrs., 2-year-old Bertie and 9-month-old Milvina, are moving to Kansas.
We went third class, or steerage, because my father's heard from relations in Kansas telling him how much more opportunity there would be in America. And so he thought immediately we would go there.
Not all immigrants on Titanic are poor. 16-year-old Edith Brown and her parents are in second class. Her father, Thomas Brown, is moving the family to Seattle.
He shopped around and he worked it out that if he could wind his affairs up by around about the end of January or February 1912, they could make it to join that brand new ship that everyone was talking about, the Titanic. And they did.
April 10th, 12 noon. Titanic departs Southampton, England. Following 2 days of sunny skies and calm seas, on Friday, April 12th, a message from another ship. Ice ahead. Sunday morning, April 14th, 2 more reports of ice. The ice these ships are seeing began as snow in Greenland 10,000 years earlier. Gradually piling up a mile thick, over centuries the snow compresses into glacier ice. Ever so slowly, it inches its way down to the sea and breaks off.
Once it falls into the ocean, the ice is called an iceberg. They circulate around Baffin Bay for a while, maybe a few years. Then they come down the Labrador Current, and the Labrador Current brings them right offshore here, right off Newfoundland.
Right off Newfoundland, Iceberg Alley. Once it reaches here, the 10,000-year-old ice has only weeks to live. By evening, Sunday, April 14th, Titanic has received a half-dozen ice warnings. Put together, they indicate an enormous belt of ice stretching for miles. In a month, it might be gone. But this April night, it lies right across her path. In Mir 1, John, David, and Anatoly are well south of the stern, searching for the debris David Concannon sighted in 2000. If they find it, it may prove Titanic suffered previously unknown grounding damage.
Mir 1, this is Mir 2.
From Mir 2, an anxious Richie checks in.
You know I'm dying to hear. Did you find the ribbon of steel?
You're watching Titanic's final moments on the History Channel. Day 3 of the History Channel expedition, midway through the first dive to Titanic. In Mir 1, John, Anatoly, and David Concannon are well south of the wreck, searching for the ribbons of steel Concannon saw in the year 2000.
Something to the east.
If they find this debris, and if it is what Concannon thinks it is, it could prove that Titanic not only sideswiped the iceberg, but also ran over part of it, damaging her bottom.
I'm optimistic that they're going to find something. But the thing that bothered me about this is that David was not able to give us the one thing that I wanted to see, and that was some kind of photographic proof.
1 hour into the search, roughly 600 meters south of the stern.
Now, we are far away from the wreck.
We're right where we should be, actually.
Concannon recognizes a familiar rise on the bottom.
And there's a hill. There's a hill, and there's dishes on the hill.
You've got all kinds of stuff. This is a bona fide debris field.
Then they spot a piece of steel.
Yeah. I've got some steel over here. What's this?
Yeah, piece of steel. This is something.
Yeah, there's a big piece of steel. Woo!
Yeah, right.
I was not crazy. This is the big boy. This is what I was thinking.
But something isn't right. Concannon thinks it's the same location. There is a piece of debris, but it looks nothing like ribbons of steel.
Right where we said it was, but what is it? Doesn't look to me like double bottom, but that's
It's a boxed out beam of some sort.
It becomes clear. Whatever this debris is, it's not giant ribbons of steel. And definitely not part of Titanic's double-bottom hull.
it looks like where we were before, but we really don't know. No, this doesn't make any sense.
In Mir 2, Richie is anxious for an update.
Mir 1, this is Mir 2. John? Yeah, John, I read you loud and clear. You know I'm dying to hear. Did you find the ribbon of steel? Now, 10-4 on that. 10-4 copy negative.
Perhaps Concannon misjudged what he saw in 2000. Or perhaps this isn't the location.
You see it out there, John? It's near the edge of the hill. We got down to that area. The hill was there, the metal was there, the ribbons of steel that I saw before we missed, which is they weren't where I thought they were, or we missed them entirely.
Some people would say that not finding the ribbons of steel would be a bust. I don't look at it that way. I think that anytime you look outside the box, you expand the search, you're going to have to look at a lot of mud bottom. You're going to have to look at a lot of empty areas to find stuff.
Nevertheless, now they've only got 2 dives left to find what they came for. The pressure is on. By Sunday, April 14th, Titanic is more than halfway to New York. In second class, David Haseman's mother, 16-year-old Edith Brown, is having the time of her life.
She was thrilled to bits. They shopped around and bought her all these new dresses and hats and things, and she was hoping there was going to be dancing on board and what have you. And she was looking forward to it.
Even third-class passengers, like Melvina Dean's mother, are finding White Star's hospitality impeccable.
Well, she seemed to be quite happy with it. She thought the accommodation was quite good. And I remember her saying there was a band also, a Welsh band playing on third class, presumably, which was awfully nice.
Sunday afternoon, the weather turns suddenly cold. After receiving a half-dozen ice warnings, Captain Smith moves his course 10 miles further south. But he doesn't post extra lookouts, nor does he slow down.
All North Atlantic officers were taught to keep up the pace, keep to the schedule, and that was standard. Captain Smith really wasn't doing anything different that night. I think he just thought, as most of his officers thought, that if there is any danger ahead, we will see it in time and we will be able to get around it.
It's a time-honored strategy for coping with ice, and it works, usually. But it depends completely on one essential factor: visibility.